Good evening, everyone. Today is Wednesday, July 8th. Welcome to our Town of Cutler Bay zoning workshop. Mr. Clerk, if you could please take the roll.
Councilmember Duncan,
Here.
Councilmember Ramirez,
Here.
Councilmember Lord,
Here.
Vice Mayor Callahan,
Here.
Mayor Marbut.
Present.
We have a quorum.
If you'd all please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, good evening. This is our zoning workshop, and as you all know, we have two sessions. The first session gives the opportunity for the public to view the project, take some looks at it, and then the second session is for the applicant to present it to the council. So first session starts now. The second session will start at 6:30. And Roger, there's no way we'd start earlier if they finish early, right?
If there's absolutely no further community input, we could probably start earlier.
All right, well, I'll guys let you know. And Julian, I don't think we need to present anything until we get started at 6:30. So is that correct, Ralph? Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, this is the first phase of a two-phase presentation. And at this time, the floor is open to the general public and yourself to ask any questions of the applicant who's here with us this evening. And with that, we're ready to open up the first phase of the presentation.
All right, first phasing. You're more than welcome to spoke to the public. We'll can reconvene with the council when they're ready for it. So thank you.
Evening, everybody. The folks, the way that the format of this is typically what we would call like a science fair format, which we're going to put up the drawings and then feel free to come up and we can chat about it informally. I mean, we have what, 10 folks about. So we'll do it that way unless you want me to kind of go through it as a presentation style. But the typical way we do it is free form, so no one feels like they have to sit through boring speeches and can just ask whatever they want. So we're going to put up the drawings, and feel free to come up, take a look, and then we'll answer any questions you have. This property
Can't be much longer, another 12 seconds. Like to be, go ahead, Julian.
Yes. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Mr. Manager, Town Attorney, Clerk, and members of the audience. My name is Julian Perez, and I'm the Planning and Zoning Director. As you have heard, a full presentation that was given to the general public. The item that is before you at this zoning workshop the applicant is CAM Group 211 LLC and 5 Ace Com 211 LLC. The project number is Plan 1125-00136. The location is 1190 Southwest 211th Street. This site is about 1.06 acres. It has two folio numbers, and there's two districts within this town center. There's the center sub-district with a folio number of 366007, 0220020. And then there's the edge sub-district with a folio number of 366007, 0220030. This project or this zoning workshop was advertised on the Miami Herald on June 28th, 2026. The property was posted on June 29th, 2026, and courtesy notices went out on June 26th of 2026. 36 notices went out to the property owners surrounding area. A brief description of this project, as has been very well documented by the applicant to the general public. The applicant is requesting the following variances. There are 7 variances associated with a request. There is a conditional use and there's a site plan approval to allow the construction of a new automotive fuel station with a convenience store. Let me just brief you through the variances. The first variance is to reduce the required building frontage ratios along the primary and secondary frontage from 100% and 75% to 34.27 and 31.50% respectively. Variance number 2, to permit a one-story building where a minimum of 2 stories are required for lots greater than 25,000 square feet. Variance number 3 is to permit a side street setback of 16.6 feet where 10 feet maximum is required. Variance number 4, to permit 6.3% of public open space where 15 is required. Variance number 5, to waive the surface parking landscape requirement. Variance number 6 is to waive the distance from base of trees. And variance number 7 is to waive the building parameter landscaping requirements. At this time, the applicant is here with us, represented by Grant Penn, and they have a brief presentation for you.
Good evening, everyone. Graham Penn, 200 South Biscayne Boulevard on behalf of the applicants. I don't know how much of what my little discussion everyone saw. If everyone saw it, I can just do the presentation quickly, I guess, for the purposes of the public that at home, since we're now broadcasting. And for you, and then we can just open ourselves up.
Yeah, this is a workshop, it's a little more informal, so obviously most of it is to you, but you can go through it and just a little bit expedite.
You got it, Mr. Mayor, as fast as I can. Okay, so here we are again. The one, as Julian said, just over 1 acre at the southeast corner of 211th Street and 112th Avenue, right adjacent to the Social Security office to our east. It's a long commercial property originally in Dade County, as you know. Here's our town boundaries. We are the southern and western lot in the town right here. As Julian said, we have a mix of the 2 TC zonings. The edge is on the south, the TC center is on the north. For our purposes here, it really doesn't make a difference between the 2 of them. 1979, this property, along with its neighbors to the east, was zoned BU in unincorporated Dade County. 1984 or thereabouts, a gas station was built on the northern portion of the property. And that gas station was demolished in 2008. Oops, went too far. And then since that point, this property has been empty. So we're just coming up about 20 years. Since that point, obviously, the elderly housing development has been built to our east. That's within our unified development side. This is again our layout. To the right-hand side is 211th Street. So on the top of your drawing is 112th Avenue. Buildings at the hard corner as contemplated by the TC regulations, providing direct pedestrian access from the sidewalk. And that white rectangle on the left-hand side is a gas canopy, as you might imagine. Here's a view from the hard corner. And you can see what my favorite pole there, again, our transmission line that's right on the right-hand side of our drawing that I'm going to talk about again. The idea, as I mentioned during the public portion, it is kind of amazing when you look at how different the finished floor requirement is versus the sidewalk, how many steps are required up and the ramping that's now required to get from the sidewalk to the new finished floor of the building. The building, as I'll say before, is designed to have a two-story appearance, as in it's over 21 feet at its minimum, from up to taller than that at the corner. There's a view looking a little bit further down to 11th. You don't see here in this drawing, but that the other pole that's on the right-hand side is the lines that run along the northern portion of our property. You can see the gas canopy there in the back. The trees that Scott discussed during the public portion there on the front here, as well as the other access to the building. Here's a view of our proposed trellis and landscaping system along the western side of the property. We are constrained in this area again by the FPL lines in the height of the trees that can be put there. So we really can't put large trees there because they're under the transmission lines. But this trellising system is designed to, again, enhance the pedestrian experience, hide the gas canopies, and mimic the rhythm of a building that would otherwise be put there to come into somewhat of compliance, not technically, but the intent of, in our opinion, the frontage requirements. This is a couple of views of the modern interior of a 7-Eleven. Just so you can see, if you haven't been there like me since the 1980s, this is what they look like now. The orientation of the building, and I think this is, I did talk about this during the public portion, but I think it's important to focus on. A lot of the times you run into, especially with these buildings, commercial buildings that are codes require to be put up against the street. The difficulty always is ensuring that you can provide storefronts or windows on the important pedestrian corridors. And a lot of these stores tend to want to focus their attention inward with their glass, right, to their parking lot. This building has a significant amount of glass on both sides. On the top of our drawing, which is along the pedestrian access along 112th, you can see again that direct pedestrian access from the hard corner. On the upper right of our drawing and on the bottom of our drawing is the storefront system that's adjacent to our parking lot. So our constraints, and I'm going to belabor this, but I think that because, as you know, and I told Julie, and I'll say this, and I forgot to say at the beginning, we are committed to continuing to work with the administration after we receive the comments that we've heard from the public and from this council to work on reducing the variances in this application as best as we can to enhance the quality of this project. That is why this workshop process exists. That's why we really appreciate every time we're here, because again, this is a unique aspect of the zoning process that is very helpful in Cutler Bay, and it's been helpful for a lot of projects to improve them. So we hope that we can be part of that long story of improvement. So oddly shaped, right? We're 125 feet wide and we're 275 feet long. That means that this frontage requirement, it gets to be a real problem. The transmission line and its pole that is on our property is a setback problem. And we'll talk about that when we get there. And the 25-foot access easement that's been there for decades to serve our neighbors to the east is an issue with the landscape buffer that the town's requirements would otherwise have us put on the southern end. We can't physically put it. So my favorite pole again. So here's our pole, 2.5 feet into our property. As you can see, that's in a significant transmission line that runs up 112th Avenue. In the rear of our photograph here, you can see where the lines turn to on the north side of our property. So that's the other set of poles that we're stuck with that we have to adjust to. But this pole is the one that gives us the problem with the setback of the building against 112th. We can't be within their new easement that they're mandating that we put there. So that's why we're at 16.5 feet instead of 10. Site plan, we have our 3 sets of requests, as Julian noted. So let me go through the variances briefly. First, the rear buffer, I already talked about it. It's physically impossible for us to put that rear landscape buffer on the southern end because the easement is right there. That line on the southern end of that little driveway where the barricade is the property line. So it's basically right there, and that's impossible physically for us to put it there. Frontage, again, that is all about the orientation of the property. We have the code would require a building that is really impossible to build here successfully, given the depth of our lot and the narrow width of our lot, right? Again, 75% of that 112th Avenue frontage would need to have a building on it. We are, again, providing that kind of pedestrian experience by a combination of the building and the trellising system. Back to my pole, that's just again showing you how we have to push off to 16 feet instead of 10. That's the variance for that because of our friendly pole. 2-story height, again, we believe that this building meets the intent of having that kind of a 2-story framework on the street, right? Folks are coming, it doesn't look like it looks like a building of that's protective of pedestrians, et cetera. The whole idea of having built environment adjacent to you instead of parking lot. But we cannot comply with the actual having physically 2 stories, but as in habitable space on the second floor. But there is, again, over 21 feet of building measured from the finished floor at that corner and the entire property. The building perimeter landscaping, the constraints of transitioning from the sidewalk to the new finished floor means we have a lot more concrete than we would otherwise have to accommodate both the stairs we need and the handicap accessible ramp. That, along with with other factors, has ended up with us having that variance in the project. Again, we are working. This is one of the ones that we're actively working on, finding more green space on the property, carving things out, chopping them down. So we hope to reduce that one. Same thing with civic open space. Civic open space, again, is a significant number for this property, and the variance looks fairly daunting. It's again because we cannot rely on our anywhere on the south. Right, we have no act because that 25 feet is out of our control, and then the canopy area and all those maneuvering areas make it difficult right now to come up with that number. We're going to keep working on this. We're going to get that number up as best as we can, and hopefully, when we come back to you for action, that number will be there or will be significantly better. The 40-foot radius for every tree, as I explained during the public portion of this, we meet this for the vast majority of the property. It is that canopy area where the trucks are maneuvering in that we cannot have trees in that particular area, but we otherwise meet it everywhere except for that one handicap space that's in front of the structure. And that is the end of our presentation. So I appreciate your patience in listening to me say it twice. But our whole team is here for any questions, and we look forward to your comments to get this project improved.
All right, thank you very much, and I do appreciate you being a little faster. So, all right, I'm going to open up to the council for questions. Councilman Duncan, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for your presentation. One question, I guess, for Julian or for town staff, and I'll share my thoughts on what you presented. So the question I have, in our LDRs for these types of properties, where we have 100% building frontage required, how does that allow for any sort of a driveway into the property? Or is that not supposed to be included in that 100%?
The way I understand it, it has to be included in that 100%.
So a driveway into a property theoretically with 100% building frontage would then go underneath an opening in a building or? Because I'm trying to make,
Right.
because I understand what the current code states and what the LDR states. And I'm also looking at if I have a corner property where one side is, let's just say both sides for argument's sake, where we're 100%, where I'm required to put a building or part of the building structure fronting that street, how does a car enter is what I'm asking. That still maintains 100%.
Let me look into that.
Okay, because that's just something.
Let me look into that.
You know, I wasn't on the council
Yeah.
when these were proposed, and I'm sure, and I understand the reasoning for that because this is town center district, so we wanted to have a certain aesthetic and a certain look. But those are until you look into it, until we have more of an understanding as to what that actually means, then we're setting every single potential development, every single application that comes up in town center district up for failure, where they need to request this variance, because if not, how are you going to get any customers, whether it's a restaurant, a gas station, a housing, what have you, to be able to turn into the property from the main thoroughfare? Just a question. So we can talk, we can research that and figure that out.
Let me look into it. Yeah.
And then the thoughts that I have on the project, I do understand the location of the project, the shape, property, the FPL limitations and things like that. So I do have to, 7 variances. For me, I've been on the council almost 8 years. It's got to be a record as far as
I know.
we're thinking about here, but neither here nor there. A majority of those variances I can understand because of limitations physically that exist on the property. Whether you were proposing to develop a 7-Eleven or you were proposing to develop a restaurant, you'd have the exact same limitations. I understand that. As far as civic open space, that's kind of a big deal for me. As far as trying to limit landscaping, that's a big deal for me. Those are definitely things that I hope that upon the end of this workshop and whenever this does potentially come for a vote by this council, that those things can be addressed and hopefully mitigated a little bit more so. Because one of those was going from 15% required down to 6%, we're dropping almost 10% there, so those are important things. And then the only other question that I have, or at least, a comment would be, and I don't know what the code allows or doesn't allow, is there a potential way for some of this parking area to not be so impervious as it pertains? I understand that what the code requires, but if you're going to have this massive poured concrete, poured asphalt gas station property, perhaps if there's an area where the parking is, maybe there's ways or materials that we can identify that are not so impervious, and that might assuage some of us here on the dais that have concerns about the environmental impacts of such a property and such a
Sure.
project.
That's certainly something we can look at, increasing the amount of pervious parking, is maxing it out.
Okay, thank you so much.
Councilwoman Lord, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to echo what Councilmember Duncan just said. I've been on this dais for close to 6 years, and I've never seen 7 variances come before me. I'm not exactly thrilled. I see the problems you're having with this property. I recognize the problems you're having with these FPL poles, and the short end of it for me is maybe this isn't the property for a 7-Eleven, right? I mean, I understand that you have your limitations, but I also, I have concerns with the verbiage saying that, that has the look of a 2-story building. It does not. The corner of it is sort of insulting to suggest that one little section of the building looks like a 2-story building. If you do your research and go look at our HCA ER, it is not a 2-story building, but it looks like a 2-story building because the entire building, I understand maybe we're trying to save some building costs here, but I'm not fond of waiving or allowing variances that go against the vision that we have for this town. My main problem with this is there are so many variances and outright waiver requests rather than let's just waive what the vision of the town was, not hey, we'll try and get 25% of that. Now you just want it waived altogether. And I think that slaps in the face of the work that the people did trying to set the vision of this town. And the other problem I have is, and I drive by this property every day. My gym is right around the corner. I go through that intersection every day. It's empty. It's an eyesore right now. I would love to see something built there, but my position here, I think all of our positions here, is to honor the work that has been done by previous people on council, by Visions, by our charrette. And this isn't it. The lack of canopy bothers me, and the fact that it's because your trucks won't be able to get in there, that can't be Color Bay's problem. I mean, that sounds like your problem to me, and I think that there should be another way we can work around that. Landscaping, green space, beautifying is a very big thing for Color Bay. If you drive up US 1, you look at Raising Cane's, they had some issues as well, but they landscaped it so beautifully that you barely know that there's a Raising Cane's there. And I think that that's what we're going for. Personally, I could be wrong, but I like that look, and I think it softens the look. And the final thing I'm going to say is, this is an unofficial entryway into Color Bay. And when you come into Color Bay, rather than seeing a bunch of variances and waivers, I would love to see it look like something that Color Bay really wants, right? I recognize we already have a 7-Eleven in town. I recognize that there are gas stations right down the street and around the corner off of Caribbean. And so, a 2 stories appearing 7-Eleven with maybe some, we have a apartment complex going up next across the street that allowed for a mural to beautify that building so it looks nicer, it's more aesthetically appealing. This is the harshest I've been to anyone who's come before us, and I apologize if it feels like I'm attacking this project, but my goal up here is to make sure that the vision of Color Bay remains, and I as it currently sits, it does not.
Thank you much. Councilman Ramirez, you're recognized.
I'm in agreement with my fellow council members and stuff, and I don't want to continue belaying the length of this meeting and stuff. So I think you're gonna get a little bit more value out of the vice mayor's comments. So I'll just I'll turn it over to him.
Vice Mayor Callahan, you're recognized. Wanted to swallow that for a minute.
Yeah. Brad, it's good to see you again. I think a lot of my concerns have been expressed by my fellow council members, the property is what the property was when the client bought the property. And there's a lot of times where people come before us to try to solve their problems. The size of the properties, it's not like the applicant bought the property and then 2 days later FP&L polls appeared. It weighs heavy on the council where we have to, when you're asking us to solve a lot of the problems for that particular property. I'm not against a 7-Eleven, but certainly against a lot of the variances that are you're asking us to correct the issues. The landscaping, I'm going on 10 years on the council, and I was here when we overhauled our LDRs and put in, some stop gaps because we saw that there were holes, and a lot of it was around landscaping. And it just kind of pushes me the wrong way. And I understand that I understand the buffers and the restraints and that kind of stuff, but if we give in too much, then it opens the door for future projects to potentially ask for the same type of variances. And then where are we 3, 4, 5 years from now, right? If we get way too much variances. I do appreciate you saying that that you're going to continue to work with town staff to try to narrow down the variances, and I think there is opportunity, to correct some of the problems and bring back more of a finished product. The surface parking landscaping, I mean, we've been down this road many times before and have really, don't want to say argue, but work closely with applicants to ensure that they meet our landscaping LDRs, especially in surface parking areas. One of the concerns that I have too is the reference to oak trees that are in the parking islands. And it seems that every time we get a project like this, there is always oak trees that are spec'd inside of these parking islands. Well, that's great for the first 2 or 3 years until 4 or 5 years, 6 years down the road, when those oak trees become mature and the roots start tearing up the parking lot and the curbing and everything. And what do? They go in and they cut down the trees, right? Because it's the trees that cause the problem, but it's really us that caused the problem because we put the wrong trees in the wrong spot to begin, with, right? So we take it out on the trees as opposed to looking at what type of trees that or what kind of landscaping we can put in parking islands that, will be there, for many years and not cause maintenance problems for the owners and, because one day, on a Saturday morning, there's a guy with a chainsaw and then the trees are gone. So, yeah, the frontage also, I mean, I understand the restraints that you're talking about, but the reduction in the frontage it's just really, really asking a lot. So, but again, I think that you've heard a lot from my fellow council members and anything. I certainly would look forward to seeing, what we can do with this and how maybe you can work more closely with town staff and stuff to try to overcome some of these issues.
No, I appreciate it. That's what this is all about, right? We look forward to keep working.
Perfect. Thanks, Graham.
Thank you. All right. I was here when the original charrettes were done. Now it's a part of that. And there was vision that was outlaid and feeling, I'm only going to be here another 4 months, give or take. And then it'll be carried on by the rest of the people in this room and maybe some others. But I'm really pleased to hear that the vision is recognized and that they want to preserve the vision. Councilman Ward says, hey, maybe it's not the right property for this right thing. And sometimes that's how it works. And that's how the charrettes work. So, you'd also mentioned that it has the look of a 2-story building, but the intent of the charrette wasn't to look like a 2-story building. There's a reason for 2-story buildings. Invites more walkable communities, other types of businesses can go on top of it. There's other reasons just for the look, although the look is important to it. So I'm probably with everyone here. Not a fan of giving variances for green space and different types of landscaping. I don't care if it's 7, 2, or 10. The reasons behind the variances don't seem like they're in line with the charrette and what the look of what Cutler Bay. We've made incredible progress in Cutler Bay over the last 20 years. And we want to continue that. And, realize sometimes it means we have to work harder with our property owners. I don't want to stand in the way of them developing their sites or making any money, but it has to be something that's going to be good for the community as well. So with that, I do thank you for your presentation. And thank you, council, for your comments. This workshop is adjourned.
Appreciate everyone as always.